Henry and the Wishing Tree. Henry the Green Engine was feeling the best he had ever felt. Recently, Sir Topham Hatt had given him special coal to help with his steaming problems. The big engine felt splendid as he raced down the line. Now that he and his crew weren't so preoccupied about his steaming issues, it allowed them to really take in the sights and sounds of the island. One day, Henry and his crew found themselves delivering logs from the timber mill to the docks. Henry found himself loving the peace and quiet of the forest, as it was a nice change from the hustle and bustle of the yards. One morning, Henry pulled into Knapford Station.
"I feel so well,"
he declared. "You sound and run better than ever before," said Henry's driver.
"Maybe you could pull the Wild Nor'wester,"
chuckled Henry's fireman. Henry smiled. He often dreamed about being able to fly down the line with the Wild Nor'wester.
"Huh, as if,"
snorted Gordon from the other platform. "Gordon!" scolded Gordon's driver.
"Sorry, but since arriving here, I've only ever seen him pull goods,"
huffed Gordon.
"I have pulled passengers before. It's just I can now make the full journey with the new coal,"
argued Henry.
"Yeah, but those are with local trains. The express is different. You must keep to the strict timetable and keep control at high speeds for the safety and comfort of the passengers on board,"
huffed Gordon.
"I'm sure old Henry here could handle it, no trouble at all,"
said Henry's driver. Gordon just huffed as the guard blew his whistle and he set off.
"I'm sure you do a great job,"
comforted Henry's fireman, but Henry wasn't too sure. He technically was an express engine, but because of his previous steaming problems, he had never been allowed to take an express passenger service before. Soon, Gordon was racing down the line with the Wild Nor'wester.
"You really need to get your ego in check," scolded the driver. "I'm just stating the facts,"
huffed Gordon.
"You do realize that Henry is an express engine too, right?"
asked Gordon's fireman. Gordon just huffed.
"Only on a technicality, but still, you can't be too sure that something won't go wrong, especially with an experimental engine like him." "Well, you never know,"
said Gordon's fireman.
"We better give him a drink at Croven's Gate if we're going to make it to Vickerstown,"
said Gordon's driver. Meanwhile, Henry was rolling down the line. He found that the peace and quiet of the forest helped him clear his mind. But he was still thinking about the conversation at Knapford. Again, he didn't deny that he would like to pull the express, but at the same time, he liked his calm, peaceful journeys with the goods and local passenger trains. Later that day, Henry stopped at a signal at the edge of the forest. He noticed Neil with some coaches and some children near the trees.
Hello, Neil. What's going on here?
Asked Henry. Neil smiled.
Oh, that's the Sodor Girl Scout group. I've been chartered to take them here for a camping trip.
Explained the old tank engine. Henry was intrigued. But then, he noticed that some of the girls were standing round a large tree. Henry and his crew were puzzled. What's so special about that tree? Asked Henry's driver. Neil chuckled.
Oh, well, that's the old Sodor wishing tree.
Explained Neil. Wishing tree? Quizzed Henry's fireman. Neil's driver chuckled. It's the oldest tree on Sodor.
I remember when it was just a wee sapling.
Sighed Neil, remembering the old days. It's said that if you make a wish on the tree, it might come true, explained the tank engine's driver. Henry's driver scoffed. Huh, yeah, right. There's no such thing as a wishing tree, he huffed.
Well, you'll never know until you try,
said Neil as he chuffed away. Wishing tree. I think the old age has finally caught up to that old box, chuckled the driver. I know, right? Said Henry's fireman in agreement. But Henry was most intrigued. The young big engine looked at the tree. Seeing as the signal was still red, he closed his eyes and made a wish.
I wish I could pull the express instead of Gordon, just for one day,
he said to himself. Just then, the signal dropped and Henry puffed away. That evening, Henry rolled back into Tidmouth's sheds, where Sir Topham Hatt was waiting for him.
Evening, Henry,
said Sir Topham Hatt.
Good evening, sir.
What brings you here, sir? Asked Henry's driver.
I have an important announcement. Tomorrow, you and your crew will take the Wild Nor'Wester.
Henry and his crew were shocked.
Really, sir? Thank you,
said Henry.
Yes, but it will only be for a few weeks, as Gordon took on some bad water at Coven's Gate, causing his boiler to be blocked.
But Henry wasn't paying attention to what Sir Topham Hatt was saying. He was too excited about the fact that his wish had come true. The next morning, Colin went to the yards. He rolled into the sidings to collect the express coaches. But Henry was already there. Oh, Henry, what are you doing here? He asked.
We're just collecting the express coaches.
Oh, but you didn't have to do that. I'm the pilot engine. We collect to bring the coaches to the platform, while you lot wait and save your energy for the journey at the station, explained Colin. Henry was surprised.
Oh, right. We'll keep that in mind,
said Henry as he backed down into the coaches with a slight bump. Easy there, guys, said the shunter as he fastened the coupling. Henry soon pulled into the station. The passengers were already on the platform waiting for him. Okay, guys, best you make a good show of ourselves, said Henry's driver. Henry smiled, but was still worried. Don't worry, Henry, just leave it to me, said the driver. Once the passengers were all on board, the guard blew his whistle, and Henry set off. A bit too quickly. Easy there, boys, said the porter. Remember, you can bump trucks but not coaches.
Right, sorry,
said Henry. Soon, Henry was speeding down the line. He was enjoying himself. Bridges and stations whizzed past him as he raced down the line. Soon, he arrived at the forest. Henry wanted to slow down, but his driver didn't let him. Sorry, Henry, but this is the express. We can't stop and smell the roses. Henry's face fell as they raced through the forest. and past the wishing tree. Meanwhile, Gordon was at the steamworks, getting his boiler cleaned out. The big engine felt miserable, and he missed his passengers. The passengers missed Gordon too. They were having the bumpiest ride they had ever had. That evening, when Henry and his crew returned to Tidmouth Sheds, Sir Topham Hatt was waiting for them.
What's happened today? I've gotten reports of passengers being bumped around like peas in a frying pan,
demanded Sir Topham Hatt. Henry was surprised.
I'm so sorry, sir. I don't know what happened,
replied the big green engine. Maybe you need a clean out or something, suggested the fireman.
Well, you better get sorted for the time being, as you're the only engine and crew who can take the express,
said Sir Topham Hatt.
Wait, what happened to Gordon?
asked Henry, but Sir Topham Hatt had already left.
Weren't you paying attention? Gordon went into the steamworks for repairs. Quite sudden though,
said 87546.
Henry's eyes widened. He looked miserable when we passed him. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, wouldn't you?
asked the blue tender engine, noticing Henry's expression.
What? Oh, no, not at all,
stuttered Henry. 87546 smirked as he shut his eyes and went to sleep. Henry's driver and fireman scoffed at the troublesome blue engine, but Henry was worried.
Did my wish cause Gordon to fall ill?
He wondered. Henry started to feel guilty. Over the next few days, Henry pulled the Wild Nor'Wester, but he was miserable. Aside from thinking that he might have had a hand in sending Gordon to the steamworks, his time on the express was a struggle, as he struggled to give the passengers a smooth ride, which resulted in complaints. And due to running at high speeds, locations flashed by too quickly for him to take in and enjoy, which meant he barely had any time to enjoy the peace and quiet of the forests. One morning, Henry was at the sheds being steamed up. He was exhausted and felt generally miserable. Edward looked over at him. Is everything all right, Henry? asked Edward. Henry shot a look at the old engine.
Yes, everything's fine. Driver, shall we?
stuttered Henry. The driver, who was also a bit concerned, opened the regulator, and Henry puffed quickly away. Edward watched them go, worried. When Henry arrived at Knapford Station, the station master was waiting for him.
Change of plans. Colin is busy elsewhere. You lot will have to collect the coaches today,
he explained. Henry's crew groaned with annoyance, but Henry's face fell. He knew that this would cause even more complaints with the passengers. As they made their way to the carriage shed, Henry's driver spoke to his engine.
Is everything all right, Henry? You seem a bit, upset,
he asked. Henry sighed.
It's just, I thought pulling the Wild Nor'Wester would be amazing, and maybe 1 or 2 journeys is nice, but in all honesty, I don't think I'm really cut out for high-speed passenger services,
confessed the big green engine. His driver and fireman were surprised.
Don't talk like that. The passengers don't know what they're talking about,
said the driver.
Yeah, but I've actually never been tested on express passenger services before. And to be honest, I miss the slow local trains and the nice peace and quiet of the—
Stop! shouted a workman, but it was too late. Henry and his crew weren't paying attention and bumped into the dining coach. Plates and food flew through the air. It was a terrible mess.
"You silly great engine,"
scolded the chef who had just arrived.
"It'll take a long time to clean all this up, causing, as Sir Topham would say, confusion and delay,"
he huffed as he turned to help clean up the mess. It was official. Henry didn't want to pull the express anymore. He wanted to wish everything back to normal, and his crew could tell. Later that day, on the return journey, Henry arrived at the forest and stopped at a signal.
What's the holdup?
Asked the driver. The signalman ran up and explained that a lorry had blocked the level crossing, and a tow truck was coming to remove it. Henry's driver sighed as the signalman left. Henry, meanwhile, looked around and realized that they were in the same spot as the wishing tree. But then, when he went to make his wish, he realized that he couldn't remember which tree was the wishing tree.
Oh dear,
He thought.
which one could it be?
No matter how hard he tried, Henry just couldn't remember which tree was the wishing tree. So, he took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and decided to wish on all the trees, one by one.
I wish to no longer pull the express.
He wished to himself. Just then, the signal changed to green.
Okay, Henry, let's go,
Said the driver, but nothing happened when he pulled the regulator.
Henry? Henry!
But Henry didn't respond.
I wish to no longer pull the express.
He wished to himself again.
I wish to.
Henry, what are you doing? Came a voice. It was Sir Topham Hatt.
Sir, what are you doing here?
I should be asking you the same thing. I was on the train to see what all the passengers' complaints were all about. But right now, I'm wondering, what are you doing standing in the middle of the line? Asked Sir Topham Hatt. Henry looked at the trees, and then at Sir Topham Hatt.
Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. I just can't do it. I'm not cut out for the wild Nor'wester,
Confessed Henry.
I was only trying to put things back to normal.
By standing in the middle of the line while your signal is green? Asked Sir Topham Hatt.
What? No, by making another wish on the wishing tree. Whichever one it is, since it worked the first time,
Explained Henry. Sir Topham Hatt was puzzled. So Henry explained to him about his wish and the wishing tree. When he had finished, Sir Topham Hatt sighed. Henry, you are still a young engine and have much to learn. But I can assure you that there isn't anything magical about that tree. The whole wishing phenomenon is a myth. One of the water towers at Croven's Gate got contaminated, and Gordon drank from it when he stopped to take on water. That's why he's at the steamworks. It could have happened to any of you lots, he explained. Henry considered Sir Topham Hatt's words, and then felt a bit foolish. But if it makes you feel any better, I've gotten word from the steamworks this morning that Gordon's boiler has been cleaned out, and he should be back to work tomorrow, explained Sir Topham Hatt. Henry was delighted.
Pardon me, sir, but, the passengers are starting to get a bit rowdy, and are wondering when can we depart,
Said the guard. Oh, right, sorry. Henry, would you please? Henry smiled.
Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
Said Henry. Once Topham Hatt, his bodyguards, and the guard were back on board, the driver opened the regulator again, and this time, Henry set off.
I guess the tree really is magic, as your wish came true again,
Teased the driver.
No more express trains for you for a while.
Henry just groaned as they went on their way. The next morning, Gordon backed down onto his coaches. He felt as good as new. The passengers clapped and cheered when they saw him. Gordon smiled grandly. Henry, who was on the other platform with the local, just smiled.
I understand that the express wasn't up to your liking?
Asked Gordon. Henry sighed.
Honestly, Gordon, you can keep your express. I think I'm better suited for the local and goods work. For now, at least.
He said. Gordon could only smile in agreement as he set off. Later that day, Henry found himself stopped at the signal at the edge of the forest. He saw some hikers by the wishing tree, and even though Sir Topham had said that the tree wasn't magical, or As he would later on put it,
Wishing trees don't run railways.
Henry wished he would never have to pull the Wild and the Wester, not for a long time, just in case.